He was going to be our third roommate.
He helped out with the rent, and then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie-coochie someplace else.
This is Judy. Jalil is suing his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, for rent and the cost of 2 cats.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Case 2170, Jalil versus Calderon Nepomuceno.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, my goodness.
Judy turns to Katie.
Calderon,
Hello.
what's your first name?
Amante.
Amante.
Yeah.
Good. It's much easier than your last name for me to pronounce. Mr. Jalil, this roughly is what the case is about. You and Miss Calderon were in a relationship for a period of time. You decided to take an apartment. You were both on the lease. So far, correct?
Correct.
Your arrangement with Miss Calderon, which seems to be consistent in both your complaint and your answer, is that you had a much better paying job. She was going to provide the food and some other stuff for the house, and you were going to be covering the rent when you lived together, which you did.
Correct.
There came a time when Amante, who was a friend of yours, came to live with you. According to you, he was going to help out with the rent.
Correct.
He came, he lived with you, he helped out with the rent for maybe a period of time, and then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Now they're a couple. When you were no longer a couple with Miss Calderon, she stayed in the apartment for a period of time, but then they both left.
Correct.
And you're suing both of them for rent and for the return of 2 cats that they took when they left. You claim the cats are yours.
That's correct.
That's what the case is about. And some cat expenses in the event that I let them keep the cat. Cats, 2 cats. So when did you and Miss Calderon sign a lease together?
We signed the lease together at the end of July with the landlord present.
July of 2022?
July of 2021. Correct.
And it was for a year?
Correct.
And you had a job working for whom, sir?
I worked for a company called Steris.
What do they do?
They provide medical equipment to hospitals all over the world.
How long have you been working for them?
I'm going to have 8 years under my belt this year.
And when you moved into the apartment in July of 2021, what kind of work was Miss Calderon doing?
At the time, she was working at I want to say an animal hotel.
It was a pet daycare boarding facility.
Okay. Were you an hourly employee?
I was an hourly employee.
And I am correct that when you moved in July, your arrangement was that you were going to pay the rent.
That was...
The arrangement.
Correct.
When did Armante come to live with you?
About August to...
That's
Right.
incorrect.
Shh.
He...
Just...
Judy glares at Katie.
Amante was going to be our third roommate.
You mean 1, 2, 3?
Correct.
Well, you're not roommates, really. You and the defendant, Miss Calderon, were not roommates. You shared a room.
We shared a room and
Armante was going to live where?
in another room.
And what was your arrangement with Armante with regard to paying rent?
We would split the rent 3 ways.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And how much was your share of the rent?
I would say approximately 927.
How long did you live there?
I was there when they signed the lease. I watched it all happen when they signed the lease. I came in, they signed
Okay.
everything.
Well, you didn't sign the lease,
I did not.
but you were there from the beginning?
Yes.
And it was your agreement with the plaintiff that you would pay 1/3 of the rent?
Yes.
Great.
We asked the landlord
Okay,
to.
so, hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie-coochie someplace else. So you agreed with the plaintiff that despite the fact that you were not on the lease, you were going to assume the responsibility of 1/3 of the rent, $927.
Yes.
So you moved in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. You left in April?
Yeah.
So you were there for 9 months.
Yes.
Did you pay rent for the 9 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
He paid rent for about the 7.5 months.
Okay. And then you left.
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I decided to leave because he decided to go to another place he was offered. So
What do you
I
mean he
could-
decided to go to another place
He
that was...
got a place from his grandparents in another city. So I couldn't hold down the rent with her. So I decided to leave to save money and go back to my parents' house.
Now, Mr. Jalil, you see, you don't make up a story like that, like he just told me. A lot of that has the ring of truth to it. Where are you living now?
My grandparents' house in an in-law unit
So when did you tell them that you were going to a different place?
in March.
When did you leave?
I left in July.
Did you let him know that you were staying until the end of the lease?
I
What? What?
I discussed with them that I would be leaving, but I would stick around to help them find either a different location or even suggesting that we all went back to our respected families just to, call it.
Mr. Jalil, this isn't working for you. I have to tell you something, sir. This case is not working for you at all. And it's only because Mr. Amante is very direct with me that you're suing them for $10,000. Where does that come from in your mind? Your agreement with her was you were going to pay the rent. You were never out of pocket. Your agreement was you were going to pay the rent. He paid his rent when he was there. He paid his 1/3. You then told them you were leaving. That's a whole different story than what you wrote in your complaint, Mr. Giulio. Do you understand?
Correct.
It's a whole different story. So, at best, Armante would owe you for 3 months' rent if they just left. But you told them that you were leaving. Now, when did you find out that they were a couple?
I found out at the end of April.
Were you all living together?
Yes.
So you just had 2 months left to the lease. So he was paying you, he paid you in March, you had May, June, you signed the lease in July, so it was over at the end of June, June 30th.
It would have been over at the end of July, Your Honor.
Well, she doesn't owe you any money for rent. At most, he owes you 2 months' rent. Tell me why you left.
My job doesn't pay that well, so I decided to go back to my parents' house.
When you took this apartment, this expensive apartment that was almost $3,000 a month rent, had you had a discussion with Armante about moving in with you before?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jalil, I'm reading your complaint because something wasn't registering right with me. You say you moved into the apartment together in August of 2021. Then you go through a whole bunch of stuff about a cat and then another adopted cat. You said in October we adopted a second cat. Around this same time, a third roommate moved in to shoulder some of the rent. Well, that's not true. He moved in right at the beginning.
And that was...
That was what?
That was...
A mistake.
That was a mistake.
Okay. But Armante acknowledges that he agreed right at the beginning. He volunteered the fact that he was there at the lease signing because it was agreed at the lease signing that he was going to pay a third of the rent. So, sir, you owe him rent as long as you show me that you've paid the rent. You moved out in July,
Yes.
and you paid your rent through July, or were you evicted?
No, I paid my rent in July.
Through July?
Yes.
Okay. 1854. Armante, you owe him $1,854. That's for 2 months' rent. Got it?
Okay.
I'm not subtracting anything because you stole his girlfriend.
That's fair.
Caption. Coming up.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case?
Either the return of both cats or $5,000.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil.
And later today,
There were restrictions put on the space.
No.
You have to pay attention,
Okay.
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kamar, Katie, and Amante.
Kamar Jalil claims his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, are wrongfully keeping his cats and owe him rent money.
Now let's deal with the issue with the cats. She doesn't owe you any rent. That was not your agreement with her. You moved out in July, August, September, October, November, December. 5 months ago, she's had both cats, right?
Correct.
She says they're her cats. When did you first file a small claims case?
September of 2022.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case? Be careful.
I was requesting either the return of both cats or $5,000, which was the accumulated expense of not just the cats, but also the expenses of her dogs as well. So any animal expenses for
Okay.
the time.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil. When the cats were either registered or went to the vet, whose name is on the sheet as owner?
I believe it was Miss Calderon.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And she owns the cats, and she's had them for the last 5 months. I suggest that you go and adopt 2 more if you want some more cats. Do you understand?
Yes.
You were living together as a couple. However, your friend Amante has to pay you for the couple of months' rent that he didn't, because he says, not you, he volunteered that was your agreement from the very beginning. So he owes you $1,854. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think he's just kind of butthurt that I moved on.
At least now I can put everything behind me and say that I did try.
I didn't think it would escalate this far.
All you can do in a situation like this is just you learn from it and you move on.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
This is what it is. It's life.
Judy.
I find fascinating, Sarah, that people will write and or be assisted in writing a complaint and an answer, but they read it over. This man is an intelligent man. He has a serious job for 8 years. First of all, he was suing for $10,000. Come up with that money. $5,000 for the cat's expenses, ridiculous. But his complaint had really nothing to, even the timeline.
As your clerk, I know that is a pet peeve of yours when
I don't understand
they
it.
don't
You know,
match up.
if you're going to tell a lie,
at least tell a consistent lie.
right.
I think the right thing happened. I think the defendant friend admitted himself that he owed the
Well-
rent, and that was great, even though he probably should have just kept his mouth
Zipped it
shut. But,
and not said, I was there when the lease was signed. This was always our agreement.
Yeah.
I was going to be the
but
third
he was
roommate.
honest, which we always appreciate, and so I think the right
You
thing.
know, so
I think he needs to, like you say, put a period, move on.
move on. Anyway, all happy, and they look happy. They couldn't keep their hands
Oh,
off each other.
Case number 2172, Foster Gardner versus Menzel. All parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Manziel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster.
Right here.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building.
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from that space, which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay. Give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space.
Yes,
You decided to go into some sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events,
yes, ma'am.
social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes,
And according to you, you gave her $6,000,
yes, ma'am.
sort of front money, to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, et cetera.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
Okay.
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay, let me, okay,
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want your $6,000 back.
Yes, ma'am. In
That's what it's
addition to-
about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that. When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met living at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
Jamar hands the document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So in your hands,
Shh. What's
that's the studio that she runs?
Sarah? You have to sort of explain it because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things, but I know you can sign things by DocuSign now. Your signature isn't on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And
That looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
okay, is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes, after.
Just a second.
Okay.
You
Yes, ma'am.
prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes, well, then you have a binding contract, okay?
Okay.
So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed if there's any material question, since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000. I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says, this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes, so sign the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, et cetera.
That is.
Now that happened according to you because you do not own that space, you rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no.
Caption, coming up.
Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jamar, Sean, and Livin.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their event. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording session.
Okay, there was a party that got out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay, and it was after that that you told your 2 partners that
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this, you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules. Did you know that this was rented space?
We didn't have all of the details about the place.
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all of these things, before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party, but that wasn't with you.
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was a part of the event.
Is that correct that
No.
it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And
I don't
so-
care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Yes,
let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No, Your
Just
Honor.
hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on.
space
You can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
My landlord contacted me that the neighbors were complaining. People were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 they get back.
Okay.
Easy? That's a contract case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you very
This court
much.
is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
Sarah.
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security. There was notes about no alcohol, food and drink will be provided. So I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water. So to be cautious, she was letting them know, hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people. It makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event, so...
I see your point now that you put it that way. I
Maybe.
just think if you were going to make them whole, they should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your opinion
view. Sure.
and perspective.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to Judy.
She sent you these wigs, but she doesn't have any money.
She didn't want to reply, and she just blocked me. Like, you're messing up my business.
I don't care.
If I pulled up...
Nobody is listening to you.
Okay, well, can I leave?
No.
This is Judy Justice. Fatoumata Diallo is suing salon owner Kanaya Taylor for 5 wigs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2008, Delano versus Taylor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Briefly, and then I'll get into specifics. You sold over the internet some wigs. You claim you sold them to the defendant.
Yes.
They were charged on a credit card. According to you, it was the defendant's credit card. You shipped the wigs. The defendant, according to you, received the wigs, then challenged the credit card charge, and the charge was reversed so that you did not get your money. And Miss Taylor kept the wigs. It is Miss Taylor's claim that you never sold her the wigs, that you sold the wigs to clients of hers, and if they didn't pay you, that's not her problem. Is that your defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Stop jumping up and down because it makes me seasick.
Okay.
Stand still.
I can't.
You can't. Do you want a stool to sit on?
No.
You sure?
I just have anxiety.
Okay. Miss Diallo, how long had you been in the online wig business?
3 years now.
And on what date did Miss Taylor contact you?
October 1st of 2021.
Had you ever dealt with her before?
I haven't. A customer of mine actually referred her to me.
You had not dealt with her before?
Correct.
And her first order was for what?
A 34-inch deep wave wig unit.
I don't know what that is. Tell me how much it cost you.
$391.
And how much did you charge Miss Taylor?
$491.96.
And you shipped it to her?
No, I didn't.
Where did you ship it?
Right now, I didn't ship anything at the moment.
Okay, so she ordered the first one for $491.
Yes, and then after that, I shipped after.
How many did she order all in total?
In total, 5.
Within what period of time?
In the span of 4 days.
Okay, and Miss Taylor, you do not deny the fact that 5 wigs were ordered in a conversation over the internet with the plaintiff. Uh-huh is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a copy of those orders?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
Fatoumata hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Who's Joyce?
One of my clients.
Your Honor, that's her.
Shh. Do you have a MasterCard?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any credit card?
Yes, ma'am.
How long has Joyce been a client of yours?
Probably about a year.
When you say she's a client of yours, she comes to your salon?
Yes.
You have a
my
salon?
apartment. No, I have to do my hair out of my apartment.
So she comes to your apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you know when she wants to come for an appointment?
She'll text me. She'll DM me.
Okay, so she texts you, which means she texts you from a phone.
Right.
Which means that you have your phone, which shows her text messages.
Not.
What do you mean, not? If she texts you for an appointment, then you know how to contact her.
Yeah.
And she knows how to contact you. I want to see that. I want to call her.
I don't have that phone anymore.
Get it. You have to understand where I'm going. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, you understand where I'm going. Who is that?
My boyfriend.
Your boyfriend. What does he have to do with this?
Because he was at the house when her and someone else came to the door.
I don't care.
Okay.
If I were coming to court today and I knew that there was going to be a certain amount of proof that involved some person who is named Joyce, and order confirmation email was sent to Joyce at your email address.
Right.
Right. And Joyce is somebody who was a client of yours for a year, not too long ago, who's no longer a client of yours. Not uh-huh. Uh-huh isn't an answer. Yes is an answer.
Ma'am.
But you can't give me her number to call because you lost your phone.
Yes. And she blocked me after I started asking her about the dispute.
Well, just a second. Well, that's 2 different things. You see, if she may have blocked your number, she won't block my number. That's not what you told me. You told me you don't have that phone anymore.
I don't.
Well,
and she blocked me.
How do I know that?
Her. I don't know.
How do I know that?
Did.
Yeah, right. Okay. Dora Dynasty, is that your?
Yes, that's my business.
That's your business. Well, these wigs were sent to Dora Dynasty.
Right.
Right, I know right. And who is?
A client.
And is still your client?
No.
No. Okay, you seem to be having a lot of trouble in your business.
How?
Yeah.
I've been having this trouble ever since the wigs have got delivered, and she hit me about a dispute.
Judy smirks.
Let me explain something to you. You purchased the wigs based upon her conversation.
I got
just pay careful attention to me. They were all delivered to you.
Right.
That means you bought them. If somebody stiffed you, that's not her problem. But according to her, and you acknowledge that she sent you 5 wigs, and the is not an answer. Do you understand? You following me? Okay. What was the total value of her purchase?
$21.96.
And can I see the reversal of that charge on your credit card?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at some point, your credit card was charged. At some point, your credit card was charged. That's either a yes or a no.
No.
Whose credit card was charged?
My client's.
Which client?
I'm not sure. Whichever wig she said was disputed.
You said in your answer you kept all the wigs.
No, I didn't. I didn't keep all the wigs. They got delivered to my house. 2 of them I installed, and the rest they picked up.
Judy reads Kanaya's response.
The wigs got shipped directly to my salon.
The wig shipped to my apartment because I was going to do their hair. I told them about the vendor.
Are you trying to tell me that despite the records that she has, that you were the contact person on all of this,
Right.
nobody else,
Right.
just you,
Right.
that you gave these wigs to somebody else,
They
to 4 other
paid for
people?
'em.
They paid who?
They paid her. They paid for the wigs, and they got them shipped to my house.
Were 4 different people charged for the wigs?
Yes.
4 different people?
Yes. She did 5 different transactions.
Are you telling me that the 5 different transactions were all her?
All her.
That makes my life easy. So what you're saying to me, she charged it on 5 different cards.
Yes.
No, I didn't.
But she is all of those people.
All of them.
How?
I'd like to see it.
Please.
Fatoumata looks through her documents.
And Your Honor, she also admits it on Twitter. She doesn't actually know I have her Twitter account. And this is how she gets them. She orders,
May I just see it, please?
Caption, coming up.
See how you're smiling? Bad. She should have left you home.
Man, please.
Do you understand? She should have left you home.
Nah, they just ain't
You
communicating
should have left
right.
you home.
They ain't communicating right.
Still not a good look from you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Fatoumata and Kanaya.
Fatoumata Diallo claims salon owner Kanaya Taylor owes for the cost of 5 wigs.
What's Beauty?
That's her business name. Business Twitter.
I don't have a Twitter.
Right.
I have an Instagram, 2 of them,
I have
and a business page. That's what I have. I don't have a Twitter. Do you have my Instagram?
I do.
Don't talk to each other. Don't ask her any questions.
Judy reviews a document.
That's so interesting.
What?
From Dora Salon, is that it? Or Dora Salon?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
I have her LLC.
Just a second. Yeah. Can I see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Dora Dynasty.
And here's her LLC, so it matches.
I'd like to see it.
And here you go as well.
Fatoumata hands documents to Kevin.
Well, this is from Beauty at...
No.
What do you mean, no?
No, my business name is Dora Dynasty.
Yeah. Dora Salon 1 Beauty, Dora Dynasty LLC, Dora's Dynasty.
Right.
And about the same time, the tweet is over 2,000 in wigs. I'll smack those. And then on the 13th, you write, my wigs come tomorrow. And then on October 11th, I'll be wrong if I dispute it once I get it. And then I don't know. What did the,
Because,
what is,
ma'am,
just a sec, I'm reading something. Is not an answer. I didn't ask you anything. What does that mean, Sarah?
It's just an emoji. Like, so what? I don't care.
Oh, I'll be wrong if I dispute it once I get it. So what? But it was so rude I can't even ask them questions, telling me I didn't read it. And then she writes, see how you're smiling? Bad. She should have left you home.
Man, please.
Do you understand? She should have left you home.
Nah, they just ain't
You
communicating
should have left
right.
you home.
They ain't communicating right.
I paid all this money for these wigs and these slow rolling. Wow. I assume that those people, the clients that you were talking about, was slow rolling. Would that be a fair statement? I mean, I'm not familiar with all of this. And then you show me in these tweets, or whatever they call them, a picture that was put up by Boo. Is that a name?
Yes.
Now, what is that?
That's her client actually contacting me and telling me that she's charged her for the wigs and that she was never a stylist to begin with.
How did I upcharge the fee when they paid for it themselves?
Nobody hears you, madam. Okay, so you acknowledge you got them. Your statement is you no longer have them. She didn't make a deal with you. She made a deal with 4 other phantom clients, 2 of whom either you lost your phone, the dog ate your phone, you don't have the number anymore, you don't have the contact anymore, but we don't know how to get in touch with him. And then there was somebody that actually was wearing one of the wigs that she didn't get paid for, that she got from you.
That's not true.
Could I see the invoice and the chargeback, please?
Yes.
Fatoumata produces documents.
Still not a good look from you.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, not a good look.
It's funny because it's not true.
Not a good look.
She hands the documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
You the boyfriend?
Yeah.
Stand up for a minute. Just have a couple of questions. Tell me your name.
Braylon, right?
What do you do for a living?
I'm a barber.
Do you live together?
Yes.
How long have you lived together?
Going on a year.
So you were living with her when these wigs were delivered?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, would be an answer. Were you there when she opened the wigs?
One wig she had to put together for a client. Then she opened, she told me she was doing, I know her. I don't be in no business like that.
So the answer is you were only there when one wig was delivered?
I was only there when she opened one wig.
When she opened one.
And I took her to go pick up a wig from her.
Did you drive her there?
Yeah.
Did you go in with her?
No. She came outside. She walked across the street and got it.
Don't speak. Don't speak. She walked across the street and got it.
From her, yeah. Downtown.
Your Honor, she was actually driving. Because.
Do you work out of the apartment as well?
No.
You work out of a shop?
Yes.
Are you ever there when your girlfriend is working on clients in your house, in your apartment?
Yeah, I've been there.
Often?
Not really, I be gone. Working hours, I'm working. If she work at the house, I'm working at the shop.
How many rooms are in the place where you and the defendant live?
At the time, we was in a two-bedroom apartment.
And who was there, just the two of you?
No, we had a roommate.
So you had one bedroom for yourselves, you had a roommate, and then there was a common area, kitchen, living room, right?
Yes.
Where did she conduct her salon business, in what room?
What it would be like dining room area connected.
In the dining
room. Yeah.
And is that where she kept her equipment?
Yes.
Is that where she kept her materials?
Yes.
How many wigs did you see in that dining room area at any one time during the time you were living there?
Maybe one she was working on the door, two, maybe two at the most.
You paid rent in the apartment?
Did I pay rent? Nah.
Did she pay rent?
Yes.
How much?
It was like, what, $1,200?
Don't ask her anything.
$1,200. I don't pay the rent, $1,200. I don't pay it, so I don't know.
Why don't you pay anything towards rent?
I don't have to pay the rent if I pay the bills, I pay car notes, I pay different stuff. We 50-50.
Well, if it's 50-50, then you would also pay part of the rent.
Not if it add up to both our car notes, rent, which really be a little bit more.
Okay, so you pay the other bills, she pays the rent.
Yeah, I moved in with her. I ain't lived there the whole time. I told you it only be like a year. She was already staying there. I moved in.
With what did you pay the car note? With a check?
No, I pay with either a car or my money.
Your girlfriend, does she have a car?
Does she have a car?
Yes, it's a yes or a no.
Not right now, she did.
Did she?
Yes.
What kind of a car did she have?
Chevrolet Sonic.
And what happened to that car?
It got, whatever, repoed.
It was repossessed.
They was scamming me on my insurance.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything. I'm asking your witness.
Okay.
You brought him.
All right.
Caption, coming up.
I'm not the only person you suing. If I pulled up
nobody
and bought a vehicle, why wouldn't I
nobody is listening to you.
Okay, well, can I leave?
No.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Fatoumata and Kanaya.
Fatoumata Diallo has accused salon owner Kanaya Taylor of stealing 5 wigs. Kanaya says Fatoumata was trying to scam her.
So the car was repossessed. When? Don't look at her. Give me a month, give me a year. Was it recent, in the last 3 months, 4 months?
I can't give you a month.
So it was repossessed because of non-payment of whatever the note was, because that's the only basis to repossess a car. Okay. Now, you say you're not living in that same apartment anymore. You were living in this 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes is an answer. And you're no longer living in that apartment.
No.
And what happened to that apartment?
I moved. She moved with me.
Okay. You moved when?
November.
November of 2021.
Yes.
Just about the time of all these disputes over wigs. Did your roommate remain in the apartment?
Yes.
Did you have a lease in that apartment?
Yes.
Was your lease over, or did you move out during the lease?
It was over, and I renewed it for my roommate.
Now, the lease was in your name.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh is not an answer. Yes is an
ma'am.
answer, and you renewed the lease even though you moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you living now?
In Conyers.
What kind of a place?
House. And I pay all the bills.
And what does your girlfriend do?
She works.
What does she do?
She does lashes. She does hair. She does nails. She's a entrepreneur.
Does she have a website?
Yes.
Yes. What's the name of her website? You think?
Yeah, I think. I don't be on. I don't shop with her.
Got it?
Looking.
Did you have a conversation with Miss Taylor about these 5 wigs? Did you have a conversation with her?
Yes.
Do you have a cell phone?
Me? No.
Did you ever have a cell phone?
Yes.
What happened to your cell phone?
I broke it, so I went on another one.
And you didn't get another one?
It have to get sent to the house. I just broke it. Like, I just broke it.
You just broke it?
Yeah.
So
last
you
week.
have a cell phone. Tell me how you broke the cell phone.
I got real angry and I threw it.
You got angry with somebody?
Yes.
And tell me how your girlfriend lost her cell phone.
Oh, she gave it to me.
And when did she lose her cell phone?
She gave me that phone. I bought her another phone. She gave me that phone.
So she gave you,
around.
just a second. So she gave you the phone that she had been using?
Yes.
Which had Joyce information on it. That was the phone she gave you.
I guess I don't know Joyce. I don't know who Joyce is.
Sit down.
Braylon sits.
Ms. Taylor, you want to be in business, you have to pay for what you ordered. It's
Yeah,
absolutely,
okay.
I'm not speaking to you, it's absolutely outrageous that she sent you these wigs, they were delivered to your house, and she not only doesn't have the wig, she doesn't have not only her profit, she doesn't have any money. And you've got a lot of clients that you can't identify, and phones that got lost, and information that you don't have. And information that you don't have, that you don't have. Clients that are no longer clients, that blocked you. I mean, people who block you after you work for them for a year, that means that you're either doing a lousy job.
No, because the way she came at me, I actually chumped them off because I feel like you're messing up my business. So I chumped them off, and I guess she didn't want to reply, and she just blocked me.
2196, judgment for the plaintiff.
Your Honor, I have other text messages. I was out of business for month and a half.
I have to tell you something. I can't discern whether you lost business or not because of this. I cannot discern that. I can give you back the money that you lost as a result of shipping her 5 wigs and not getting compensated for it.
And I also have court fees, and I ordered a PI as well.
But
Just a second.
More people
that I
than
will
just me
hear.
for wigs.
What
You
were
the
your court
scammer?
fees?
I'm not the only person you suing. If I pulled up
Nobody
and bought a wig, why wouldn't I
nobody is listening to you.
Okay, well, can I leave?
No.
Kanaya rolls her eyes.
'Cause it's
Court fees.
like...
And I also have my incident report that day.
Just a second. Would you please just give me the court fees? You said you had court fees and you hired an investigator.
Yes, I did.
And I'd like to see that invoice, because that's you're entitled to.
I have the text messages of my PI.
Fatoumata hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is that you're handing me. I asked you what the court fees were.
I have my PI phone number.
You have nothing.
I didn't print out my court fees, but I do have my more.
Do you have an invoice from the investigator that you say that you hired?
Yes.
And the work that they did?
Yes, I have all the messages.
I don't want messages. I need an invoice, a payment.
I did a payment, $400, and we have the text message trying to find her everything.
Can I see it, please?
Fatoumata hands her phone to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews a string of text messages.
It was $250 for skip tracing and $150 for service.
My sales went down.
Just a second. Did this person serve her?
Yes, they did.
2196, judgment for the plaintiff. That's it. We're
This
done.
court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Kanaya, then Fatoumata.
I never did it, you know? I just got it sent to my house.
We went through everything. We had to go through birthdays.
It's like saying, oh, I know a friend that they know how to cut hair.
Text messages, everything.
And then you don't like your haircut. What, you want me to pay for your haircut? Like, girl.
We literally hawked her down for the information.
She honestly messed up my clientele.
Judy and Sarah.
It would be easy to be forthcoming with me and say, these are the clients who I sold it to. I gave her the information. They were supposed to pay her, whatever, but she didn't.
A lot of running around.
A lot of running
story.
around, and there's no question that the plaintiff sold her those wigs. She made a markup. She made a 25% markup. That's okay. And I'm certain that she put in the wigs and made her own markup. You know, that's commerce. But this ability to reverse charges on a credit card and to have somebody, and it's usually just a person, we're not talking about a committee or a tribunal that determine whether or not the charge was legitimate, just to reverse it. And then where are you? You're left without your product. Very frustrating.
It's a double-edged sword. It can be very useful. I've had to do that on a few different occasions. And the process is very hidden and sort of behind the curtain. And I fear for people like the plaintiff who run their own business, hardworking people who make the best money on the internet because there's no overhead fee of running a store. But these are some of the risks and things that you have to ensure before you get into business.
Well, too bad. Too bad people don't do the right thing. If they did the right thing, we'd be out of business.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to Judy Justice.
You borrowed this money from her.
The money wasn't a problem until I dumped her. I didn't know that we were keeping tabs on things.
That's what people do.
She came to see me on my birthday, but I bought her gifts.
I've been a judge for over 40 years. You think I'm going to listen to you buying her a hamburger?
This is Judy Justice. Ivana Harvey is suing her ex-boyfriend, Ted Kelly Jr., for unpaid loans and airfare.
Judy enters.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2040, Harvey versus Kelly.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, according to what you wrote in your complaint, you've known Mr. Kelly since college?
Yes.
And you dated in college?
Yes.
That was more than 30 years ago?
Yes.
And according to Mr. Kelly, you broke up with him in college. In what year was that?
Oh, gosh. That was what?
Do you remember?
92, I believe, Your Honor.
Okay.
And then somehow you reconnected. I assume you both had lives in between 1992 and 2022. When did you reconnect?
In April of 2021.
How?
Well, he was looking for me, so...
He was looking for you?
He emailed my best friend. He emailed her business and asked her, well, gave her his number and asked that I call him.
So far correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were interested in seeing her again. In that 30-year period, did either of you have other people in your lives, have children, marry?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, how long were you married?
I was married for 10 years.
Have any kids?
Yes, 2 kids.
And you, sir?
11 years. And
have any children?
One child, yes.
Both divorced?
Yes.
Okay, that could have made an interesting love story, but didn't happen. Okay, so you wanted to reconnect with her. You got in touch with a friend of hers through a business number, and you called him?
Yes, I did.
And that was in April of 2021?
Yes.
Where did you live at the time?
Detroit, Michigan.
And you, sir?
Colton, California.
When was the first time you actually saw each other?
April of 2021.
You live in Michigan.
Yes.
But you have a child who lives in California.
I do.
How old is that child?
21.
Male or female?
Male.
And where does he live now?
With his dad.
When you come down to see him, where do you stay?
In the past, sometimes I would stay with his dad, and sometimes I would stay in a hotel.
So when you visited him, you either stayed with his father or your ex-husband?
Yes.
Or stayed in a hotel?
Yes.
Depending upon the circumstance. Most of the time, did you stay at the house with his father, or most of the time in a hotel?
Most of the time, in the past, I stayed in the house with his father.
And is this his father's only child as well?
We have 2 children together.
2 children? Where's the other child?
She's in Chicago, Illinois.
How old is she?
26.
So you see her less frequently than you see your son?
I probably see them about the same.
Do you go to visit her in Chicago?
Yes.
And you go to visit your son in California?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm gathering happened is you saw each other for a while. You thought it was an exclusive relationship. You did not.
At first, yes, I did, Your Honor.
And then what happened?
The last time I saw her was in Detroit. And when I returned from Detroit, the girl that I was seeing at the time had disappeared.
You mean the girl that you were seeing prior to seeing her?
Right, exactly. And I thought the relationship was over. She went deep into Mexico, and I hadn't heard from her. She had to go for some family business. And then she resurfaced once I came back. And
once you came back from California on your last trip?
Once I came back from Detroit.
From Detroit?
Spending time with her.
To California.
And so we started talking again, and I didn't get in contact with her. She was trying to contact me, and so
So you stopped answering her calls?
No, not really. I called her, and I let her know that, you know, the girl resurfaced and that I didn't think it was going to be able to work out between me and her. And that's when the problem came along.
The problems with regard to money?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what your lawsuit is about. So you broke up with her, and at that time, according to you, you had unpaid advances to him for an airline ticket and car repairs and some small amount of money for a new grandchild that he had, some baby items. So let's start with the plane ticket. When was the plane ticket?
The plane ticket was purchased in May. It was to go and see him for his birthday.
Okay. Was this the only time that there was an airfare issue? Who paid for the airfare? Because he would drive most of the time.
He drove one time. I flew, and this was the only time that he said he would pay for the ticket. I paid the other time.
Okay, well, tell me about his discussion with you of paying for this ticket.
Sure.
In May.
So he wanted me to come for his birthday.
When is your birthday?
In June, Your Honor.
And I told him that I was looking for tickets.
He said, I want you to come for my birthday.
Yes.
No, tell me what he said.
He said...
Tell me what he said. No, don't look over there. Look over here.
He said, I'm going to fly my boo thing out.
Okay. And
later, I looked for tickets, and he said, oh, I was going to give you $500.
Okay. And you purchased the ticket, and that was in May of what year?
That was in May of 2021. We agreed that I would put the ticket on my credit card.
And when you got to his home in California, did he give you the $500?
He did not give me the $500.
When did you ask him for it again?
I didn't ask him for it while I was there.
And then?
And then when I was back home, he told me that he was going to take care of it. He said he was trying to get his money together to come to Detroit, and he was crunching numbers. And
No, I'm talking about the airline ticket.
Right. Then he said, I need to give that money to you this week, right? And I told him I had made a payment on a credit card and he could have more time. And so he said he would take care of it. He said, I'll take care of it when I'm there the 1st of August.
Did he come the 1st of August?
He came in August, yes.
Okay, and what happened in August?
He came in August. We was there. We did not have any discussion about money until he told me that his account was compromised and somebody owed him some money and didn't give him the money. And so that's when he asked for the other loan amount.
For the other amount of money? You mean he was in Michigan when he asked for more money?
Yes.
Well, when he asked for any money. You had never given him money before.
Correct.
Tell me about it.
So he sent me a text message, and he asked if I could go to the credit union and take out a loan for him.
I'd like to see that.
Sure.
Please, if it was in a text message.
Devonna produces a document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you check with your credit union and see if you could get a personal loan for $1,000 and I can make payments on it because I don't even have my gas money to get out here? And she responds, I can loan you $1,000. Is that all you need? And you respond to her, well, the $500 I'm short would be perfect if you can.
$1,500.
$1,500, excuse me. $1,500.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, what do you think that meant?
Caption, coming up.
Hey, baby, you think you can make that loan and even $2,000?
No, I'm saying the money wasn't a problem until I dumped her.
I don't care if it was a problem a lot. You said it was a loan.
Exactly.
Pay careful attention. If you want a dog that guarantees you practically a nice disposition, buy a golden doodle, not a wolf.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Devonna and Ted.
Devonna Harvey says her ex-boyfriend, Ted Kelly Jr., owes for an unpaid loan and airfare.
Well, what do you think that meant?
That she was going to give me the money. But the reason the car was having the problems is because I drove it out there to see her.
No, it's not what this says at all.
Well, a couple days later.
Shh.
Sure.
That's not what this says at all. It says I'm in a hole. Can you go and get money from the credit union? Can you get $1,000? And she was nice, and she said to you, is that all you need? And you said, well, as long as you're going, I could actually use $1,500. That would be perfect.
Right. I didn't know that we were keeping tabs on things because I've spent money on her and never asked her for anything.
It's not a question of spending money, sir. Spending money on her is chivalrous.
She came to see me on my birthday, but I bought her gifts. And I took her to Mexico for 4 days.
7 years of college and law school. I took the bar exam. I've been a judge for over 40 years. You think I'm going to listen to you buying her a hamburger? That's not what this is about, sir.
It wasn't a hamburger.
Or a present. That's what people do. You told me, sir, that you were in an exclusive relationship until your girlfriend from Mexico resurfaced. That's what you told me. So buying each other presents is not an issue. Did you tell her?
Just like the plane tickets. I went to see her in college, and I didn't try to charge her for the plane ticket. She came to see me, and we never had that issue.
Are you talking about when you were in college?
No, I'm talking about the plane tickets. We never had an issue with me having to pay a plane ticket for her to come to see me.
I know that, but she said this one was different. This one ticket, not all the others when you visited. This one ticket, you said you wanted her to come for your birthday, and you said you would pay for the ticket.
She wanted to come, Your Honor. It wasn't I just wanted.
She said you said to her, I want you to come for my birthday. I'll pay for the ticket.
Because she had the time that she could go at any time that she wanted to. She was planning to come out here anyway, because her son was here.
Well, I understand you tell me that now. Did you ask her to come out for your birthday, is my question.
Yes, probably so.
Okay. How much was the airline ticket?
$500.
Show me.
Devonna produces a document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
$446.80.
But with bags, it was $500.
I don't care about the bags. Okay. Now, I want you to tell me about these baby items. That's the last thing on your menu.
But we didn't finish with the other.
We finished with it.
But he asked me for an additional $500 after that $1,500. 2 days later. I have that here, too.
I'd like to see it, please.
Devonna produces another document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
On Friday, August 20th, said, hey, baby, I had a question. Do you think you can make that loan in even $2,000? Because I need to get a few things done on the car. And she says, yes, but I can't get to the bank today. I can hit the ATM on my way home. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
What was that?
And there was never nothing said about a time limit or nothing until I got back.
Hey, baby, you think you can make that loan and even $2,000?
No, I'm saying the money wasn't a problem until I dumped her.
I don't care if it was a problem a lot. You said it was a loan.
Exactly. And when I told her I'd pay her back, she didn't hear from me, so then now we're here.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's a lot of mumbo-jumbo gibberish. Okay, $2446.88. Now tell me about the baby items.
So he asked me...
When?
Text message, that was...
When?
In July 8th, I'm sorry.
So this was before you loaned him the other money?
Yeah.
Okay, so in July...
He asked me, did I have Cash App? And I told him I did, because I thought, and I gave him my Cash App handle because I thought he was trying to pay me the airline ticket. But he said, no, the problem was that he didn't have Cash App, and he was trying to get his son's baby's mother some money and wanted to know if I could send it for him because I had Cash App.
How much money did he need for his son's
There were
girlfriend?
2 occasions. One was $60 and one was $50.
Do you recall that, Mr. Kelly?
I don't recall her not getting the money for that. I didn't do it because he wasn't in the area where I can give it to him, and I didn't have Cash App, and she sent it on the Cash App, but I gave her the cash for that.
And that was in July?
Yes, while I was still there.
He never gave me any cash.
I don't think so either, because then you borrowed all this money the next month.
He also asked for a Western Union.
$25.56. Just for my own curiosity, sir, are you still with the girlfriend who disappeared to Mexico?
Yes.
Yes, you live together?
No.
Okay, well, it wasn't the ending that perhaps you all envisioned, but you borrowed this money from her, sir, and you have to return it. $25.56, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Devonna.
Obviously, I'm happy.
Well, technically, yeah, it was a loan.
Judge saw through what he was trying to say. I don't know what he was trying to say.
But I spent money on her, and I never kept tabs on it.
Oh, my gosh, he just asked me for a lot of money.
I wasn't in love with her, and somebody else came back from the past.
No, I just want my money, and I told him that. I just want my money.
Sarah and Judy.
So I'm curious, Judge, the ratio of cases that you've seen of women loaning men money versus the other way around, men loaning women, their girlfriends, money.
I think I would have to go with 80-20.
I would agree.
This woman has somebody who's reasonable. He, on the other hand, she was okay until his girlfriend from Mexico resurfaced, and he broke up with her. I think he probably was hurt all the years from college that she broke up with him, because he talks about it in his answer. But women really have to be smarter.
Invested in yourself would be my best advice for women.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You invest in yourself.
Case number 2045, Vervick versus Baez. All parties, please step forward.
Howard Verbrick is suing his former customers, Angela and Jimmy Bias, for loss of income and the cost of a wolf dog.
Mr. Verbrick, what do you do for a living?
I'm an auto mechanic.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
When did you get into breeding and selling wolf dogs?
Approximately 8 years ago.
Why?
I found the animals fascinating.
Whitney shakes her head. Caption coming up.
Why would any normal person want to own with 219 breeds or more in this country, in the world of dogs? Why would you take a dog that is in part, and you don't know what part, wild wolf?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Howard, Angela, and Jimmy.
Howard Verbrick claims his former customers, Angela and Jimmy Bias, owe for the cost of a wolf dog. Angela and Jimmy are countersuing for harassment.
This is your case. The defendants purchased one of your puppies several years ago.
One, yes.
And a couple of years later, according to you, they were looking for a second dog.
Yes.
Did they contact you?
Yes.
By phone?
Through messaging.
Which you have?
Yes.
Okay. And I will take a look at it at an appropriate time. That they were looking for, I think they were looking for a male, they had had a female.
Correct.
And you were prepared to accommodate that. Did you give them a price for the dog?
Yes.
What was that?
At the time, it was $800.
And after certain discussions with them, was that price ever modified?
Yes, it was.
To what?
Angela thought that the $800 was a little expensive, and
How much had they paid for the first dog?
$500.
Okay.
The reasoning being, they helped me sell some.
No, just years before, they had paid $500. You were asking $800 for this male.
It was $800 back then also. Under the circumstances, if they helped me sell animals, then I would give them a deal.
Did they do that for you the first time that
Yes,
they?
ma'am.
So the first time that they bought a puppy from you, they paid $500 and assisted you in finding owners for other puppies.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Second time, you asked for $800.
Yes.
And then did you make the same deal with them?
I did.
How many puppies did you have?
At the time, I had 6.
Did they come over and see the puppies?
No.
Isn't that usual to come over and pick one, unless you only had one male?
Sometimes. I've sold other people animals throughout the United States by pictures only and updated photographs.
On what date did you go and pick up your puppy?
He dropped the puppy off to us on, I think it was March 22nd.
How far does he live from you?
About 40 miles, 30
So you
miles.
could have easily gone to see the litter.
Yes, correct.
So you chose for him to drop the puppy off.
Well, he kind of messaged us, and we had a phone conversation where he stated that he couldn't feed the puppies anymore.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. I know you have a script that you want to tell me about because you have something in your head, but that's not what I asked you. What I asked you was you could have gone to look at the litter of puppies.
Correct.
And picked out which one you wanted.
Correct.
You chose to have him deliver it to you.
Yes.
That was my question. He delivered to you a male puppy. How old was the puppy you delivered to them?
Approximately 9.5 weeks.
I don't know if that's an appropriate time for wolf dog puppies, but 10 weeks is a reasonable time to separate puppies from the litter and their mother. I know that that's not what I went to law school for, but you require a certain amount of nonsense information over the course of a lifetime. Anyway, did they pay you for that dog?
No.
What was the arrangement?
According to Angela, I got 3 different amounts. She was going to give me a $100 deposit and $100 a week, a $150 deposit, then $100 a week, and a $200 deposit and $100 a week. I got nothing.
At what purchase price?
She was thinking the $500 when I was asking the $800.
That's not what I said. Did you ultimately make an arrangement with her for $500 if she helped you find other pet owners? Okay, let's be direct. So you agreed to make them the same deal with this dog as you made with the last.
Correct.
Which is, I'll give you if you help find other potential prospects for the other puppies.
Correct.
So purchase price was $500, and they did find you other people for the puppies.
1, yes.
Well, they found one. It wasn't specified. They found one. And did you place that puppy?
Yes.
This is what your lawsuit is about. You say that she didn't pay you any money, and the people who you placed the other dog with did not finish paying you.
Correct.
Well, they're not responsible for that person. They're not responsible for that person unless you gave them the dog in order to collect the money. Okay. Or did you drop the puppy off?
I dropped the puppy off at their house.
Then that's your problem. Okay. So then what we're dealing is the $500 that you claim they owe you for the dog.
Oh, plus potential loss of income.
Oh, no, yeah, that'd be ridiculous. Okay, $500. Let me hear your excuse.
I think that the dog has been abused, and I have video proving.
And?
The mail won't ever come around.
Just a second, and?
The male does not like males. What he'll do is he will cower at the sight of any male. He's very aggressive when he goes to take food from you.
He was 10 and a half weeks old.
We've had him for 8 months now, and we still can't touch him.
But you got him, and he was 9 and a half weeks old.
And he's still the same.
You got him when he was 9 and a half weeks old. So that's not a reason not to pay for him. You still have him.
He needs proper care, and we don't feel like we should pay anything.
No.
Not with what we have to deal with the dog emotionally and everything else.
Well, unfortunately, the law does not agree with you. You agreed to pay him $500 for a dog. You have the dog, and you have to pay him the $500 for the dog. That's it. It's an easy case. That was your contract. You didn't make a contract with him for a dog that had a nice disposition. Just pay careful attention. If you want a dog that guarantees you practically a nice disposition, buy a golden doodle, not a wolf. Buy a golden doodle.
Good.
Buy a Shih Tzu. You want a big dog? What's another big dog?
Golden Retriever.
Buy a Golden Retriever. But if you people are odd enough to think that wolf dogs make good pets, not knowing, because I did a little investigation into wolf dogs, are wolf dogs good pets? Because I get my cases early, and I say, why would any normal person want to own, with 219 breeds or more in this country, in the world of dogs, why would you take a dog that is in part, and you don't know what part, wild wolf? Why would you do that? If your animal is aggressive, go look at its history. Because sometimes they'll grow up to be friendly, nice dogs, like the first one you had.
First one I have is very well with our kids.
You know, this one, I'm going back to my wolf roots. Well, so it's judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Jimmy.
We more or less rescued this dog.
The dog had no issues before.
He cowers down to any side of a male.
That's just a totally false statement.
It's to the point where he's got to get a trainer.
I hope that it is taken care of, and if they don't want the animal, I'd be glad to take it back and care for it.
We're going to work with him. Yeah, we're not going to let him go.
Judy and Sarah.
Just another example of people who maybe not looked into the history of a dog, a wolf dog. Mm-hmm. And if you read about it...
I did a little before the case.
Yeah. And it said that a wolf dog is a mix between a wild dog and a domesticated dog. And they list the names of the kinds of dogs that they have been bred with over the course of the years. But in that kind of situation, you don't know how much wolf you're getting.
It's a risk.
You could be getting 8% wolf. You could be getting 50% wolf. You really don't know. I think that there are some jurisdictions where they don't allow them to be sold as domesticated pets.
I think there are a few out there. I just think it's a gamble, and you have to be willing to assume the risk.
I think that we have totally covered wolf dogs.
I think we have.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
But you would continue to pay the rent?
Correct. I found out that the rent hadn't been paid, so that was a surprise.
He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You lived there alone? Mm-hmm. And he was paying the rent?
Yes.
This is Judy Justice. Us is suing his former friend, Nadine Drury, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy enters.
Be seated, everybody.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Kevin?
Case number 2015, Moss versus Jury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moss, prior to leasing an apartment with the defendant, had you known each other?
Sort of.
Tell me a sort of.
So we met one time about a year prior. We have mutual friends, one of which had asked me to get ordained to marry her and her husband. So I flew in town to do that, and Nadine was there at their house when I flew in. We saw each other for a few minutes, and that's actually the only time we've ever met in person.
And there came a time when you were looking for an apartment where?
I was looking for an apartment in the Salt Lake area.
And where had you been living?
In Seattle.
And where were you living, Miss Drury?
In Salt Lake City.
You were looking to move?
Yes.
So other than that one-time meeting when you were officiating at a mutual friend's wedding, you hadn't met before, but somebody suggested that you were looking for an apartment, you were looking for a new apartment, and perhaps you could rent an apartment together.
Yes, that's
fair statement.
In fact,
Yes, Your Honor.
And in what month and year did that happen?
it would have been in October of 2020 that this arrangement sort of came to be like, hey, maybe you should see if Nadine.
Okay, but you did, in fact, sign a lease together. Who found the apartment?
Nadine did.
You did. Prior to signing the lease, Mr. Moss, had you seen the apartment?
No.
No is the answer. Did you ever see the apartment other than videos or photographs of it?
No, I never saw
Prior
the
to
apartment.
signing the lease?
Correct.
Also correct?
Correct.
On what date was the lease signed?
On the 7th of November of 2020.
The rent on the apartment was how much?
It was $585 a month each.
$1,170, Your Honor.
So $585 per month each. You both signed it on the same day. Did you move in?
I did.
On what date?
November 8th.
And you were still in Seattle?
Correct.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
Okay, and that is also correct?
Correct.
Because for whatever reason, you decided to stay in Seattle?
Correct.
Is that work-related or socially?
Social.
And then you contacted her and told her that you weren't intending to move in.
Correct.
But that you would continue to pay your half of the rent. Is that also correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you were making a direct deposit to the account to pay the rent.
Yeah, it was an automatic payment from my account to the rental.
To the rental office?
Yes, to the rental office.
Then you came to find that Miss Jury had stopped paying her portion of the rent. When did you stop making payments on your portion of the rent?
In January.
So you paid either full or partial for November because you moved in on the 8th, and you paid December's rent.
Correct.
And you stopped paying rent in January. Why?
I lost my job in December of 2020.
So I'm going to outline now what this case is about.
Yes.
Mr. Moss continued paying his half of the rent until you found a roommate.
Correct.
And you found a roommate when?
I believe I found him in February, and he moved in the month of March and started paying his half of the rent.
So you didn't pay rent January or February,
Correct.
2 months.
Correct.
And you had no work.
Correct.
When you found out that the rent wasn't being paid, according to you, in order to not impact your credit, you spoke to her. She said, I don't have a job. You said, I can help you out. I'll send you money. Mm-hmm. Is that generally what happened? Then I'll get into
that's generally what happened, but there is a little more detail to it.
I'm going to let you get to the details.
All right.
And you want that money back. The money that you advanced her in her time of need, which was how much in total?
The total is $3,360. She did at some point pay me $300 back, so the amount I am seeking is $3,060.
Okay. Are those figures accurate?
Yes.
And he gave you that money, not because you were good friends, because you were a relative. He had met you one time.
Right.
And he had, in fact, said to you, I will continue to pay my rent, even though I know you from hole in the wall. I will continue because I signed this lease until you find someone to get me off the lease.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your defense, it seems to me, to this action is that he was really trying to scam the government by depleting his bank account so he could collect food stamps or whatever. No. And as a result of that, because he wasn't being honest with the government, you shouldn't have to pay him back. I just want to know if that's what I'm reading correctly.
There was never an agreement
to
pay back.
That's a different story. I'm going to read this over because, you know, I'm getting elderly, and I may not have recalled exactly what you said in your answer.
Judy looks down at a document.
It doesn't say that here. It says several months later, it's after you found a new roommate, Emmett randomly reached out to me saying that I owed him money and demanded that I take out a personal loan to pay it. I refused. Emmett has some nerve. Not only did he break the lease, well, what difference does that make to you? He still was paying his half of the rent. So now you had a whole apartment by yourself and he was paying the rent, right? So why does he have some nerve? But he took advantage of me and used me to scam the system. So that's what I understand your defense is.
It is. I have video evidence, Your Honor.
Video of what?
Of Emmett.
Of Emmett what?
Of Emmett explaining why he was trying to get on assistance and how he was like, it's fine for you to pay rent with this money because I'm trying to empty my bank account so that I can get on food stamps.
It is true.
Okay, just a second. Just a second. Let's say that's true. He's going. I'm just trying to. Shh.
Caption coming up.
I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars.
No, just one. I personally didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, you know, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Emmett and Nadine.
Emmett Moss claims his former friend, Nadine Drury, owes for unpaid loans. Nadine says Emmett broke the lease they were both on.
I'm just trying to get your mindset. You know, I hate people who scam the system. But you got this money from him. And your defense is that he was trying to scam somebody else, so you shouldn't really have to pay him back, even though it was his money.
It was his money.
It was his money that he took out of his bank and gave to you.
Right.
For no reason.
That I never agreed to pay back for a lease that he was legally on. He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You mean so you get to live there free?
No,
Well, just a second. So you get to live there free. If he paid for it for the months that you didn't, you got to live there free. He wasn't even living there. It's not as if he was living there and you didn't get to live there free. You lived there alone. And he was paying the rent.
Yes.
Well, why do you think you're not responsible for that once you get back on your feet?
We never talked about a repayment.
No.
That's not
okay. Now,
we definitely talked about repayment.
Now, I want you to explain to me and be very careful, because, you know, I've been in this system a very long time. So I know about social services, and I know about the system, and I know about welfare, and I know about food stamps. I know all about that. So you contact her.
Yes.
And she tells you she lost her job.
Yes.
Let's pick it up from there.
Okay. So I found out through the payment portal that she hadn't paid rent.
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay.
We're
I
past
contacted
that.
her about that. Well, there was.
Don't look up.
Apologies. I sent her money that night.
No. You contacted the portal, and then you had to have had a conversation with her.
Right.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Let's start with you contacted the portal, and you found out she hadn't been paying her rent. That was in January.
Correct. January the 2nd.
And January, she hadn't paid rent, and you called her, and she said to you...
She said to me that she didn't have money to pay, which I was aware of because she had previously told me that she I was aware that she had lost her job.
Just a second. How did you become aware that she had lost her job?
Because we were friendly with each other. We were talking several times a week via Facebook Messenger.
Fine. You knew that she lost her job.
Yes.
And I assume you knew if she lost her job, and you were speaking several times a week. Let's be very careful. This isn't just calling the pay portal and finding out that this stranger who you met once wasn't paying her rent. You were speaking, and you knew that she had fallen on difficult times. And?
I did. I didn't...
Don't go up here. Right here.
I didn't know that she wasn't going to pay rent on time.
No, just a second. You didn't know what?
On the 2nd was when I found out that the rent hadn't been paid.
On the 2nd of January.
On the 2nd of January.
Just look at me. On the 2nd of January, you found out the rent hadn't been paid. What did you do?
So I called Nadine to ask about it, and you told me that she didn't have the money. And so I said, okay, I have these extra funds because I, at the time, was also unemployed. I had been taking payments, unemployment payments, and then the COVID payments.
And what?
The extra payments for COVID on top of unemployment, because this was 2020.
Welcome to Inflation 101.
Right. So all of my payments had been late and had come in a lump sum. So that is why I had extra
So your
money.
unemployment and your COVID funds came in one lump sum.
Correct.
And I want you to think very, very carefully. And you're living where, sir?
Seattle.
With whom?
At the time, I was seeking a roommate.
No. Where were you living?
So I was living in Seattle.
In Seattle with whom?
No one.
By yourself?
Yes. Technically, someone was paying rent because they had moved out.
You're looking up at the sky.
Sorry.
Don't look up at the sky. So somebody had moved out of their apartment.
Yeah.
Which had been prepaid in rent.
Yes.
So you were living there rent-free.
No. This was my apartment that I'd lived in for 3 years. And someone else had moved in and then moved out. And they broke the lease, not me.
They broke the lease, but they paid the rent.
Correct. They paid their half. I was still paying my half of rent. I never defaulted on my rental payments in Seattle ever.
And they were still paying theirs.
Yes, so we were both each paying our respective parts of the rent. And I was paying rent in Utah.
And you were paying rent where the defendant was living. Okay. So I want you to think very carefully. When you got your unemployment and your extra COVID money in a lump sum, how much did you get?
What?
No, don't look over there. You know exactly how much you got.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it, just give me a number.
$10,000.
Well, that should last you for a little bit. And you got $10,000 on what date?
I don't remember.
Month?
It would have been in November.
Okay, so now she's run out of funds, and you say to her, go ahead.
By the time we get to January, I do not have $10,000. I have much less because of other circumstances.
Like what?
Like needing to purchase a car for the girlfriend that I stayed in town.
A car?
Yes.
What else?
Rental payments. That's it. Nothing.
You bought your girlfriend a car?
I did. Her car that she had was a beater, and it was unsafe.
I don't care. What about your car?
I did use a down. I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars?
No, just one. I didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, you know, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story. You're living by yourself with a roommate. The roommate moves out. Your girlfriend had a terrible car. You don't live with the girlfriend.
Don't.
But you bought her a car. You didn't have a car, but you bought her a car.
I had, if we need to back it up, I had given up my car in a bankruptcy earlier in the year because of...
In whose bankruptcy?
My bankruptcy.
Your bankruptcy.
That is why I didn't have a...
It's getting better all the time. Okie dokie.
It was an interesting year.
That doesn't mean you don't owe money. It just means I have to know the characters that I'm dealing with.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
Caption, coming up.
While you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Emmett and Nadine.
Emmett Moss has accused his former friend, Nadine Drury, of refusing to pay back loans. Nadine claims she was used by Emmett to scam the government.
So now you've got much less money from the $10,000. You bought your girlfriend a car, you had to pay her rent, you paid your own rent, you had other things from bankruptcies that you had before, so you have a little bit of money left in the bank.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
don't look over there, right here. No, look,
that evening of the 2nd, I paid Nadine a total of $710, enough to cover the rent of $585, any fees it would cost her to go and withdraw that money from the bank, and she also asked for extra money for groceries.
Just a second. You acknowledge a $3,000 amount of money that he gave you. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
You say that that's
includes
correct.
That includes the money that he's saying that he spent on rent, that he gave me for rent, and he's also asking for his deposit.
I am asking for my deposit.
The deposit for the apartment back.
Okay, well, he's entitled to that. You have a new roommate who I'm sure you got a deposit from.
She chose to not
And if you didn't?
collect a deposit from
What?
the roommate.
Well, that's her problem because
I
she's
agree.
going to get the deposit back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's reasonable. She's going to get the deposit back when she leaves. When you leave, if you leave the place in good condition, he was never living there, so if you don't leave it in good condition, then it's on you. I want to know about this video that she wants me to look at, where you tell us some sort of a scheme you have to get more money from the government.
It wasn't a scheme.
Why don't you tell me about it? So far, we got $10,000 that was supposed to last you for 6 months, and you blew it on a car for your girlfriend. And so you may not call it a scheme. I want you to tell me why you had to have a zero bank account.
I didn't have to have a zero bank account.
A more limited access to money. What were you applying for, sir?
So
not so up here, so here.
Okay. I was applying for a program to go into the trades. So it was like a work-study program, like electrician, plumber, that sort of thing. And again, I didn't have a job, and unemployment had completely stopped. And as far
How many years did you collect unemployment?
It was less than 1 year.
How many years had you worked?
How many years have I worked?
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 16. So
Well,
it's
I'm
been
surprised
14.
the unemployment totally ran out because they kept extending unemployment. People were on unemployment for years during COVID.
When they cut me off December of 2020, they did not reestablish my claim. I kept applying and it was denied. So I don't know why, but it was.
What kind of work do you do now?
I work for customer service.
Okay. And the trade school that you wanted to go to was to prepare you for what?
To be an electrician was what I wanted to do.
An electrician?
Yes.
And was this an online program?
No, this was in person.
Where?
It was in Seattle.
And how much did they give you to go to that program?
They didn't give me money to go to the program, but the program was free of charge.
Okay. So the government paid the tuition?
I believe that
Well, somebody pays the tuition, sir.
Yeah.
So the government pays the tuition. And while you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, how were you supporting yourself?
So...
Were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, I applied for food stamps and got food stamps. That is what I got.
So you applied for some sort of assistance while you were going to this trade school, which you're not practicing now, and you're not an electrician.
That is correct.
And in order to apply for food stamps, you have to have a certain amount of money is the maximum you can have in your bank.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's the fraud you're talking about. That's why he gave you the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean,
just a second.
I also gave her the money because she was going to need the money for rent. Like, it was one of those situations where it was mutually beneficial for me to give her the money, but it wasn't.
You're looking up at the sky. I understand what happened.
So I wasn't going to have any way to support myself. I needed something to. The $2,000 was going to cover the rent for my place and my place in Seattle and my place in Utah, and then I wasn't going to have anything left.
I understand that it became mutually beneficial for you to advance her the money so that your bank account would have less in it so that you could receive assistance and also get free tuition at a trade school that you didn't use.
My intention was to use it, and I changed my decision later.
Do you think the trade school charged the government once you enrolled in it?
Yes.
Yes, of course they did. And you know how much the tuition was in the trade school? Yes, you have to know. No, it was free to you, but it wasn't free to the government.
Right,
the government pays.
$1,500 was what I was made to understand.
Baloney. You people really somehow deserve each other, but you owe him $3,000. Madam, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm a little bit shocked to be made out as a government scammer.
I mean, I lost my job and I wasn't able, and he bailed on the lease that he signed.
Because that wasn't ever my intentions.
I mean, I was alone. I had lost my job. I just didn't have any support.
Definitely careful about getting money from the government.
Just glad it's done. Glad I don't ever have to see him again.
Haven't had to do that since this whole situation, and I intend to keep it that way.
Sarah and Judy.
You know, it's so unfortunate because that plaintiff looked like an intelligent enough man, able-bodied, seemingly, and he spent a lot of time, effort, brain power into bankruptcy proceedings, trade schools that would be paid for by the government, applying for food stamps, knowing what the threshold for food stamps is so that he had to get rid of a certain amount of money. That seems like a lot of time and effort that could have been better spent gaining legitimate employment or skills at a trade school legitimately. And it's just unfortunate that some people decide to take the path that I view as more difficult in searching for ways to get free money.
Really unsatisfying.
Yeah.
If you think about it, unsatisfying.
Maybe going forward, he'll take a different path.
Maybe, I doubt it.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You lived with him in his home.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a dispute.
I received partial or no rent payments.
As a result of this harassment?
That's correct.
Ridiculous. Do you know my husband harasses me every day?
This is Judy Justice. Colonis is suing his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, for rent, a security deposit, and stolen property.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2066, Michelonius versus Robertson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Robertson, how long had you been living in your apartment prior to renting a room to the plaintiff?
I believe it was about 3 years.
You had been living there by yourself?
No, I had roommates previously.
When did the plaintiff move in?
I believe that it was January 1st of 2017.
2017?
It may have been 2018. It was the first, I forget.
It was 2018.
That's correct.
How long did he live there with you?
He lived there with me until September of 2021.
So far, that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So now let me understand this lawsuit. Mr. Robertson lived in his apartment for 3 years. You answered an ad for a room. You lived with him in his home as a tenant from January 2018 until September 2021.
Correct.
At that time, there was a dispute. We will get into that in a moment. There was a dispute. During part of that time, Mr. Michelonis, you did not pay rent. Is that correct? During COVID?
That's correct.
For what period of time did you not pay rent?
Well, I had...
Give me how many months did not pay rent?
There was...
You don't have to think out loud. How many months between January of 2018 and September 2021 did you not pay rent? Give me a number. That's a number.
4 months. Some months I paid partial rent. But there were 4 months that I did not pay any rent.
4 months, no rent. And how many months did you pay partial rent?
I believe that would have been 4 or 3.
So for 7 months, you did not pay your rent. Paying partial rent is not rent. Now, my question to you, Mr. Robertson, is this is an apartment that you rent?
Yes.
Or rented?
Mm-hmm.
From January 2018 until September 2021, was your rent current?
My portion of the rent was current.
What do you mean your portion?
My portion that I was responsible for.
No, it's your apartment. You're responsible for the whole thing, Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Okay? You're responsible for the whole rent. And if what you chose to do was to say to your landlord, listen, I have a roommate, I'm just paying my portion of the rent, my roommate isn't paying his,
right,
then your rent wasn't paid.
Yes.
And I assume that your rent wasn't paid for the same period of time that he didn't pay you his portion of the rent.
Yes.
Was it for any period of time greater than that? Greater than the 4 months or the 7 months that he didn't pay rent?
I went through my bank statements, and they went back until, I believe, July of 2020, and that's as far back as my bank app lets me go.
Okay.
There were more months than that I received partial or no rent payments for.
From him?
From him.
I'm asking you about your landlord. If you didn't pay your landlord, you telling me your landlord didn't file an eviction against you?
There were several months that he did pay his full rent, and so that would have meant that the entire rent for that period.
Well, I know, but if the rent was not paid, did your landlord ever serve you an eviction notice?
No, there was an eviction moratorium in Alameda County at that point for unpaid rents due to COVID.
Gotcha. So that would it be a fair statement that you both took advantage of that? He took advantage of it, and so did you.
I wouldn't say that it was me trying to take advantage. I would just say it was my inability to cover the entire rent.
Your portion as well as his?
My portion was always covered.
Your portion was covered?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Michelonis, when did you move from month and year?
It was September of 2021.
And when did you leave there?
I believe it was the 3rd or 4th week of August of 2021.
So you both left the place at about the same time?
I left involuntarily, but yes.
Well, you left involuntarily, because that's what this case is about. Okay, so now I have the structure of it. Do you understand the structure of it?
I understand.
You understand the structure of it? I just want to make sure that people out there watching understand the structure of it. So you were the rentor, and you had an argument. It resulted in a protective order for somehow some genius put him out of his own apartment because of these protective... You weren't in the hospital for anything, were you, as a result of an assault? No.
No.
You have no medical records there of being treated for any injury.
It was a harassment.
Just a minute. Do you know my husband harasses me every day? Every day. I couldn't think of evicting him. I mean, you do other things. So the answer is, you were never treated for any illness. You were never treated for anxiety at a hospital as a result of this harassment. As a result of your allegations, let us say of harassment, Mr. Robertson was ejected from his own home, from which you had not been paying rent. Your portion that you were supposed to pay contractually with him for months because of COVID. Am I getting this story right? So far, I'm not finished yet, but so far, is there anything that I said was wrong?
I think that's pretty close. I mean,
okay, so that's pretty close. And now what you are seeking here is should I say basically, and I hate that word, basically, but it's appropriate in this case. So all of those haters out there, she used basically, I don't care. It's appropriate here.
Whitney grins. Caption, coming up.
And I put in the protective order that they were living with me, but they were moving.
No. They were living with you. You were living with them.
Well, yeah, we were living together.
No. You were living with the defendant. He wasn't living with you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Mark and Christopher.
Mark Michelonis claims his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, owes for rent, a security deposit, and stolen property. Christopher is countersuing, claiming Mark owes him for rent.
Now, what you're claiming in your lawsuit is that after a review of the copy of the underlying lease, you found that you were paying the vast majority of the rent.
Correct.
And so you want a return of that money.
That's correct.
Under what theory in the law?
Well, basically that he defrauded
No,
me.
now you can't use a basically.
Okay.
I want to know what theory is there in the law that says if I own a building and I lease to someone the whole building for $10,000, and then I find somebody who is prepared to pay me, and I have the first 2 floors of the building. 3rd floor is vacant. I find somebody who's willing to pay me $9,000 a month just for the top floor. That makes me a good business person. But unless there is something that prohibits him from doing that...
There is, Your Honor.
Show me.
There's a clause in the lease.
No, just show me.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer. I can read a
so
lease.
So the sublease that I agreed to with him incorporates the entirety of this master
Just a second.
lease.
I'd just like to see it, please, sir. I'd just like to see it.
Mark hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
I assume you've highlighted what you want me to read.
Correct.
Okay. So what you're pointing to is that the landlord, his landlord, was not advised that you were subletting.
No.
Well, that's why signed by every tenant.
So that was one of the things, because if you look at the second lease, the one that was altered by Christopher to remove those areas so I wouldn't be aware, or I wouldn't be able to enforce them, was because he moved his boyfriend in without getting my consent. And so it says in there that he needs written consent. I understand that that doesn't apply to me, but he thought it did. And so he used whiteout on the other lease that I gave to you to obfuscate those terms.
I don't know how to put this to you, sir, other than to say, let me backtrack. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a web developer.
You work for yourself or for a company?
I do. I'm an independent contractor.
How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
Prior to that, what were you doing?
I was a system administrator.
For whom?
For a small company in San Francisco.
How long did you work for them?
6 years.
So for 2 years, you were an independent web developer, and you're still an independent web developer.
Correct.
And that's how you support yourself.
Right.
So you work out of your home.
Right.
And you've been working out of your home, you said, the last 2 years since 2020. This is 2022 or 19.
Right.
What do you mean, right?
So it was yeah, it would have been.
When you moved in 2018, were you an independent contractor?
No, I was going to school.
You were going to school?
Right.
For what?
I went to.
Just a second, for what?
For web technologies. It was a program for web development technology.
Did you go in person?
Yes, it was an intensive.
For how long?
It was 3 months. It was 8 hours a day.
Okay, so you went to school for 3 months.
Right.
During what period of time?
January 2018 to end of March 2018.
Okay, and at that time you were living with the plaintiff?
Correct.
Okay, so you needed a room for that 3-month period, and after that time, you supported yourself by being your own boss, by developing websites for
It took
people.
me a while to find a job, but yes.
What do you mean it took you time to find a job?
The interview process to get work, I was interviewing, it was very hard to break into that industry.
And so what did you do?
So I started taking on independent work.
So you never actually got a job outside of the independent work that you did?
That's correct.
So you support yourself by doing web development out of your home?
Yes.
So you used the home that you were living in, that room that you were renting, for not only your personal business, but you operated a place of business out of your residence.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Yes.
Yes. I just want you to see how ridiculous you are. You want $10,000 because you overpaid what you consider your fair share of the rent. That's not going to happen. You come here, you didn't pay rent for at least 7 months because of COVID. You were working according to you. You were a web developer, still are. It's 2022 because you have no other job other than being a web developer. You stopped paying rent. You moved out after he did, correct?
Well,
did you pay?
I'd like to correct
in the
something.
month that you lived there, when you had put him out of his house because you were,
they were moving out. I did not put him out of the house.
I thought that was a protective order.
It was, but they were, and I put in the protective order that they were living with me, but they were moving, and so.
No. They were living with you. You were living with them.
Well, yeah, we were living together.
No. You were living with the defendant. He wasn't living with you. You were renting a place, although you weren't paying rent from him, and the underlying landlord wasn't getting his money, all of his money, because he wasn't getting your money. And what's coming to me is that somebody got stiffed with rent, and that would be the landlord who rented you your place where you were living, because you didn't pay him the whole thing. You didn't pay him the whole thing. And now you want me, you're asking me, to award you $10,000 for overpayment of rent.
Your Honor, could I clarify something? The times when I didn't pay rent, I was not working. It was during COVID, so the first couple months of the COVID lockdown, I lost all of my contracts, so I didn't have any money. And so I was using there was a COVID process where you could, basically say that,
There's no basically in there, only I used it once.
So I did not have the money to pay rent. I was not just making money and not paying rent. I would not do that. I was broke. All of my contracts dried up because nobody had any money. I was working for small
So what are you
companies.
suing him for now? The government was very good to you. This is a very interesting America. It's a rent forgiveness, it's a rent moratorium. That doesn't mean the state where you live. What state do you live in?
California.
California. That doesn't mean the owner of this premises was given some sort of a break that they didn't have to pay for utilities, taxes, mortgage on the building, because it's used as a business. As far as I know, there wasn't a moratorium on that, but there was a moratorium on two seemingly able-bodied people to say to the landlord, I can't pay my rent. And to add insult to injury, you think that I'm going to give you $10,000 because he charged you more than whatever the 3rd or 40% of your occupancy of the apartment, and he shouldn't have? That's not going to happen, sir. So forget it.
Mark lowers his eyes. Caption coming up.
I've been here a long time. If a landlord is owed $5,000,
yes,
he doesn't say, well, tenant owes me $5,000, but his apartment was clean. I'm going to give him back his $2,000 security deposit. That doesn't happen.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Mark and Christopher.
Mark Michelonis has accused his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, of overcharging for rent and keeping his property. Christopher is countersuing Mark for unpaid rent.
Now, you gave him a security deposit. That is part of your lawsuit.
Correct.
So I want you to forget the overpayment of rent because it is ridiculous.
Okay.
So now let's go to the security deposit, part of your complaint. Did he give you a security deposit?
He did, Your Honor.
Now, he didn't pay rent because of this moratorium
Yes.
on rent. Did you get your security deposit back from the landlord?
I did.
How much?
I believe I got the total amount for the entire apartment, which was approximately $2,000.
And how much did Mr. Michelonis give you as a security deposit?
He gave me $1,250 for the security deposit plus a $300 deposit pet deposit.
Sometimes the pet deposit is refundable. Did you get the pet deposit back?
I don't recall specifically if I got that back from the landlord.
But you did get back your entire security deposit, which included his $1,250.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Let's hold that in abeyance for a moment, because now I'm going to go to your counterclaim.
Sure.
I think that's all I have to deal with. Oh, and property taken without permission. Did you get that property back? There was some...
I did not.
What property was it?
There was a stone Buddha carving. There was some dishes, some glasses.
Oh, give me a break. Do you have a stone Buddha carving?
I have the stone Buddha carving. I have a small statuette, a rooster that is his, and a small metal
Great. Would you
inside.
pack those up
Yes.
Do you live close to each other?
I haven't been able to because of our mutual restraining orders.
Fine. Do you know where your local precinct is?
Yes.
Where is it located?
I believe that the closest one would be downtown for me, downtown Oakland.
Okay. You'll find out before you leave today. In 5 days, drop it off at the local precinct.
Absolutely.
Let him know when, and he could go pick up his Buddha.
Yes, I don't want
Great.
bad in my home.
Terrific. Now, money owed for COVID debt is your counterclaim.
Yes.
Which is what?
It is a total of $55.35, I believe.
For what?
That is the unpaid rent.
But you didn't pay his rent, you just told me.
Right, and so this is the outstanding balance of the rent that he never paid that I'm responsible for as the master tenant.
Oh, no, you just told me that you got your security deposit back. If you got your security deposit back, sir, that means that the landlord is finished with you.
According to the law...
Not according to the law. If you got your security deposit back, the entire security deposit, the landlord has written it off because otherwise he would have taken your security deposit if you owed him or her money. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very simple.
I understand what
you're
saying.
It's very simple.
I wish I could explain that to them in your...
Well...
in your manner.
I want to tell you something. I've been here a long time. If a landlord is owed $5,000,
yes,
he doesn't say, well, tenant owes me $5,000, but his apartment was clean. I'm going to give him back his $2,000 security deposit. That doesn't happen.
So
only in the land of Oz does that happen.
They might live there.
No, they might live there, but I don't live there. Okay. You owe him $1,250 for security deposit. This case is over. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to bring...
Bye.
Well, I was a little upset.
He's being a drama queen.
The clause in the lease was to prevent people from basically taking advantage of the fact that they've been living in a place for a long time and gouging rent for new tenants.
He said I was price gouging him because he was enough to pay more rent than he might have if he had done some more research.
They were trying to make it equal, and every place that I've lived in, there was always an equitable share of the rent. Like, no one was ever gouging anybody, so I felt that I was unjustly charged.
Well, I can't say it wasn't very satisfying to hear the judge call his claims ridiculous to his face.
Basically, he was leaving the front door open, making it so my dog could escape easily. He was filling the house up with smoke.
We both burned sage.
He was basically trying to get me riled up. He wanted me to move.
While I am disappointed that I won't be able to recover some of his COVID debt.
Basically, the moment that he was, it was inconvenient for me to be there, he tried to make my life miserable.
I'm glad that I will never have to see him again, and this is done.
I'm not living with roommates ever again. I've got my dog, and we're cool.
He was a nightmare, and I never have to see him again.
Judy.
You know, far be it from me to second guess another judge, but it would seem to me sort of outrageous unless there was some sort of a physical altercation. Why anyone, because he clearly was excluded from his house. He left first, and he said, involuntarily. Would anybody exclude
the original tenant? When I read the papers, I thought the same thing. I thought that was outrageous, that they would throw out the primary leaseholder on a lease in favor of his subtenant, which may or may not have been legal to begin with.
I can understand it if there was something more serious, but harassment, I just don't understand it. But mine is not to wonder why. Mine is but to do what I do. And I don't think that when you come into a court where you have at least participated marginally in a giveaway, to then come in and say, you know what, there's a technical thing. He wasn't supposed to charge me this much rent because I didn't occupy this much of the apartment, whatever. Ridiculous when you didn't pay rent for 7 months anyway. It made my job a lot easier.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You had a kerfuffle with him.
He was my friend. I apologize, but I'm emotional.
Well, don't get emotional. It's a sad thing, but I need facts and information.
We went to the same high school, played on the same high school basketball team.
You're not paying attention to me, sir.
This is Judy. Marquis Marshall and Kai Booker are suing their former employer, Gary Zephyrin, for unpaid wages.
Judge Judy enters the courtroom.
Court come to order. All rise.
She sits at the bench.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2071, Booker Marshall versus Zephyrin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zephyrin?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Zephyrin, you're being sued by these two people because they say they worked for you delivering packages I believe, of auto parts. Is that right?
Yes, Judge.
And you didn't pay them. That's simple. You're in the auto parts business or just the delivery business?
Just the delivery business.
For how long?
For about a year.
Explain the business to me, since you're not in the auto parts business, just the delivery business. I have to understand the process and keep it short.
The process is I go to the store, pick up the car parts.
Go to what store?
Hyundai or Toyota.
So you go to the manufacturer?
Yes.
Or the dealership?
The dealership.
And get the part?
And get the part and deliver.
And you take them to independent garages that fix cars?
Yes.
Okay, now I understand. Your business is, you're sort of a middle person between your local auto repair shop and the manufacturer who manufactures those parts or its dealer.
Yes, that's correct.
You don't make a markup on the part, you're just paid for your delivery service. Is that right?
Yes. I do not pay for the parts. All I do is drive and deliver the parts.
So the part has already been ordered and paid for?
Yes.
By the garage, by ABC Garage?
Yes.
They just send you to expedite the delivery?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much do you get paid for each delivery?
Well, it's not by each delivery. At this particular contract, it was between $120 and $160 a day.
And you said that this particular contract, what contract is that?
This is the car parts contract. Before the car parts, delivering the car parts, I was delivering packages.
But this operation was just car parts?
Yes, it was.
Now, at some point, these two people, how many vans do you have that deliver the parts?
Currently, I have one van.
What were they using to deliver the parts?
The van that I have.
And what did you do?
I worked in my 9 to 5.
You had a different job?
Yes.
What kind of job did you have?
I work at the Navy Yard.
So this is sort of a side gig?
A hobby, I would say.
Well, a hobby, $120, $160 a day is a nice hobby.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. And so based upon what you told me before, both of these people did in fact deliver parts using your van to various ABC garages.
They also used it for personal use too, yes.
I don't care, but they used it because you didn't use it. You were doing your day job, according to you.
Yes.
And this was a side gig where these two people were working during the day to deliver the parts.
Mr. Marshall was working during the day.
Okay, let's just say Mr. Marshall.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Marshall sort of contracted with Miss Booker, or did you?
Mr. Marshall did.
You contracted with her. You agreed with her that you would split up this delivery. You would do it a couple of days, and she would do it a couple of days.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so you had no direct agreement with him. Miss Booker, look at me. My question is, did you have a direct agreement or ever meet or discuss salary with the defendant?
No, I did not discuss.
And you can sit down. Okay. Because you have to have some sort of an agreement with someone in order to sue them. You had no agreement with him. Whatever agreement you had with him, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And am I correct, Mr. Marshall, that you were supposed to be paid, according to you, a certain amount per day to make these deliveries? You decided you wanted to work 3 days a week and she would work 2?
Yes.
That's what I thought I read. Okay. How much was the defendant supposed to pay you a day?
$80, Judge.
So you had a deal for between $120 and $160 a day. You were paying him $80. You were working your day job. And so you were either going to get $40 or $80, depending upon the work that was done, right?
Correct.
And you were going to get that as a result of his work.
Yes.
Perfect. Now, this is what you say. You say that you all decided to go into business together. You bought this van. You paid for the insurance. He was going to work and make the deliveries. I'm telling you what you wrote.
Okay.
And if you have a problem with that, you'll tell me in a minute.
Okay.
He was supposed to work, make the deliveries, and not get paid until you paid off all your expenses, your startup expenses, the van, your insurance. Didn't you say that to me?
Yes, I
Or maybe I'm thinking about another case.
I did say
You did say that to me.
I just wasn't correct, the we, because I bought the van and I paid up all the stuff.
I said you paid. I didn't say he paid. You paid the van. You paid for the insurance. He was going to drive. He says you were supposed to pay him $80 a day to do that because you had a full-time job. You were making your money. Your defense to it is that that was not the agreement. The agreement was that he would work for free. until all the expenses were paid off that you advanced for the little business.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How much was the van?
$2,000.
So it was an old van.
Yes.
And how many months did you work at this job before you had a kerfuffle with him?
A year and 3 months.
Is that correct, sir? That he worked a year and 3 months?
It seems more about close to a year to me.
And when you say you worked for a year, was that 52 weeks a year?
Yes.
5 days a week?
Yes. Sometimes on Saturday.
From when to when?
I would work depending
No, from what month and year to what month and year?
January 2021 until March or April 2022.
And in that year plus, how much money did you make?
Caption, coming up.
If you kept records of the days that you worked and how many hours you worked and how much you were supposed to be paid, then I could look at that. But I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Judge, may I explain?
You can try, but you're going to be unsuccessful, Mr. Marshall, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to try.
And later today.
He did, in fact, bring you a truck.
He didn't.
Never brought you a truck.
Never brought me the truck, never returned my money, anything.
Oh.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Marquis, Kai, and Gary.
Marquis Marshall and Kai Booker claim their former employer, Gary Zephyrin, owes for unpaid contractor work.
Okay. In that year plus, how much money did you make?
Judge, it's a tough question because Mr. Zephyrin never paid me what he was supposed to pay me. He always came up with an excuse or a reason why.
I want to know how much money you made in that year.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Well,
Judge.
Then I can't help you. I have to know how much money he paid you, and I'm going to figure out from how much money he paid you, because even if I buy his defense, the van was only $2,000. So you have to sit down and figure out how much, unless you know, how much did you pay him?
Around $320 a week.
What do you mean around? I mean, you're a businessman.
He did not work 5 days a week. He's saying he worked 4 to 6 days a week. All he worked was 3 to 5 days a week.
I assume you were paid in cash?
Yes.
But you were paid during that year?
Yes.
Give me an idea in thousands how much you were paid.
Around $20,000.
$20,000?
Yes, Judge.
Around?
Yes, Judge.
So he did, in fact, pay you?
He didn't pay me everything he was supposed to pay me, Judge.
Well, how am I supposed to figure that out, sir? How am I supposed to figure that out? You keep records of what you delivered? Does he keep records? He doesn't have to prove your case. You have to prove your case.
Yes, Judge.
So do you keep records of when you worked and when you were paid?
Yes, I keep records of when I worked, Judge, but I did not keep records of what I was paid because we're always arguing. He never paid me the full $700.
That's not the reason you don't keep records. I'm sorry, Mr. Marshall. If you kept records of the days that you worked and how many hours you worked and how much you were supposed to be paid, then I could look at that. And I can ask him, and I assume he's a businessman. He would have the same records, and there may be a dispute, but I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Judge, may I explain?
You can try, but you're going to be unsuccessful, Mr. Marshall, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to try.
I appreciate it, Your Honor. Mr. Zephyrin was my friend. We went to the same high school, played on the same high school basketball team. I was the MVP, he was the team captain. Recently, his health has been declining. Because his health has been declining a year ago, I went to Mr. Zephyrin and I said, I'm a private contractor and I have different contracts with places. I think that you should do private contracts so you can spend more time with your kids and your wife. I apologize, but I'm emotional.
Well, don't get emotional.
I used to love
Mr. Marshall.
This gentleman.
Mr. Marshall, what I'm telling you is don't get emotional. This is not...
Okay.
It's a sad thing that you know each other for a long time, I hear, and that it's come down to a case in court. But you have to understand that in order for me to make a judgment, I need facts and information. And it's not as if you're saying to me that you delivered packages, which he acknowledges, and you were never paid. What you say is that you were shortchanged.
Yes, Judge.
And you have to be able to show me that.
I have the agreement of Mr. Zephyrin agreeing to pay me the $80 a day, and we came out with a pay scale.
Just a second. That's okay. I have to see when you worked and what you were paid. How am I supposed to figure out what it is that he owes you?
Because we both know that he only paid me $300 instead of the $700. We both know that.
Well, he paid you $20,000, so that's not true. According to you, he paid you $20,000. So if what you're saying that he paid you $300 and he owed you $700, is that what you're saying to me?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the last period of time that you worked for him?
Yes.
Okay, so that last period of time was when to when? Give me the month, give me the day.
January to March this year.
From January to March
Yes, Judge.
of 2022,
Yes, Judge.
you work and you claim you were owed $700. That's what you just said. Is that correct?
I apologize for the
He
miscommunication,
said-
Judge. He only paid me 3 when he was supposed to pay me 7.
Just a second. You're not paying attention to me, sir. I said your claim is that he owed you $700.
He owes me more than 700.
No. What you said was he owed me $700 and he only paid me $300. Could you read that
yes,
back?
Yes.
Could you
yes,
read
Judge.
that?
Yes, Judge. You're correct, Judge.
Okay, then we don't have to read it back. That's why I have Whitney. You said he owed me 7, he only paid me 3, which means he owes you $400.
Correct, Judge.
And that was from a January to a March.
Yes, Judge.
Do you have any records of that, sir?
I paid him in cash, so I don't have any records of the payments that I was paying him. Mr. Marshall, he really never wanted me to keep records.
Okay, don't tell me what he wants. It's your business. Don't be foolish, sir. Did you have a dispute with him over this $400?
I did. We had many disputes.
Did you, in those disputes, refer to a part that got misdelivered by either the plaintiff or the person who he subcontracted with that caused you to lose a customer?
Yes.
And was that the reason that you didn't give him the $400? Just listen to my question. You had a dispute after all this time over a part, according to your answer, that was misdelivered to a customer,
Yes.
which caused you, according to you, to lose the customer. I don't know that, but that you indicated was the reason that this arrangement went south. So my question to you is that why you didn't pay him the $400?
No, it's not. He didn't return my van.
So the reason you didn't pay him the $400 that you acknowledged that you owe him was because he kept your van.
And my contract was canceled due to cab booker.
Okay. Did you get your van back?
Yes, I did.
How many days later?
2 days later, after I threatened to call the police.
Okay, you owe him the $400, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Gary.
You can't keep somebody's van for 48 hours and still expect your money.
He's lying about the fact that we stole the van and that we had it for those 2 days.
I think it was really bad that he's suing me over this. We've been friends since high school.
Document everything that you do when you do it. That would make better sense.
But hey, things happen. He got a new girlfriend and things happen.
Not a difficult situation. If you choose to pay an employee in cash, you have to keep records. Both parties should have kept some sort of records. Otherwise, what they were asking me to do was guess. This defendant actually made it easy for me because without his statement, I would have dismissed the case. He said the reason he kept the $400 because the plaintiff did not return his van right away, kept it for 2 days. Well, that's sort of retaliatory. How do you fix $400 as
cost for keeping
as a
the
cost?
van?
You know, that's ridiculous. That's self-help. Keep records.
You should.
Especially if you want to come to court.
Exactly.
Case number 2075, Johnson versus McIntosh. All parties, please step forward.
Dominique Johnson is suing her children's uncle, Chris McIntosh, for a truck she never received.
Miss Johnson, this is your brother-in-law. I believe that, is it your husband or is he your ex-husband?
No, it's just my kid's father.
Okay. The father of your children is currently incarcerated?
Yes.
So he's not your brother-in-law, he's just the brother of the father of your children?
Yes.
Okay, you have 2 children?
I have 3.
Is he the uncle of all 3?
Yes.
Okay. There came a time when you were in need of a new vehicle or a different vehicle. Your car was giving you trouble.
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh, according to what I've read, has tried to maintain a relationship with his brother's children.
Yes.
Despite the fact that you no longer have a relationship with him.
Yes.
And according to what I'm putting together, you reached out to him or you were on the phone with him and told him you needed another car.
Yes.
And according to you, he said he had a car, a truck.
Yes.
That he would sell you for $2,700.
Yes, that he would personally bring to me.
And he did, in fact, bring you a truck.
He didn't.
Caption, coming up.
So on what date did you buy it?
I don't.
Think. You know, you're coming to court today. You knew that this was the issue when you came here.
Yeah.
Not yeah, yes.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Dominique and Chris.
Dominique Johnson claims her children's uncle, Chris McIntosh owes for the cost of a truck she never received.
According to you, he said he had a car, a truck.
Yes.
That he would sell you for $2,700.
Yes, that he would personally bring to me.
And he did, in fact, bring you a truck.
He didn't.
Never brought you a truck.
Never brought me the truck, never returned my money, anything.
Oh.
I even tried
Just a second.
Okay.
So you sent him the $2,700.
Yes.
What date?
June 21st of this year.
What happened to her $2,700?
Bought the truck there and then dropped it off.
What truck did you bring there?
2007 Suburban.
And where did you get that truck from?
I got it from an auction.
Okay, I'd like to see the paperwork.
I don't have the paperwork.
Well, that's unfortunate. Why wouldn't you bring the paperwork? It's only a couple of months ago.
Because the auction is every first Thursday. It's not the same person running the same auction. They don't have the same paperwork for the auction.
Well, if you had paperwork, you would have also have had a title for it.
Yeah, and I left it in the glove compartment box.
What's the name of the auction?
Towing.
Where are they located?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Sarah, would you look that up, please? She did send you the money.
Correct.
How did she send it to you?
Cash App.
Yep, which I have proof, Your Honor.
No, there's only one issue. She says that you never brought any truck. You say, well, you bought this truck at an auction. The auction is every Thursday?
Every first Thursday of the month.
First Thursday. So on what date did you buy it?
I don't...
Think. You know, you're coming to court today. You knew that this was the issue when you came here.
Yeah.
Not yeah, yes. So what date was it that you bought the truck, that you have no paperwork
Thursday.
for at all?
Thursday.
Which Thursday?
What month was that I bought you the truck? I really don't know. Like, I'm being so serious right now, like...
Honestly, if I could speak, it was June 21st I sent him the money. June 21st was when he was supposed to bring the truck to me. He never bought the truck. Then he stated to me that he sold the truck and that he had another one that was less, and I have that truck as well. This was the first truck initially I was supposed to get.
Did he ever bring you any truck?
No, not at all.
Do you have any phone messages?
I do.
I'd like to see them, please.
And towing. It's a towing and auction house.
Okay, say when they have auctions?
It doesn't list it on their website, but I could try and see.
It's a lot of them, honestly, a lot of messages.
Dominique hands her phone to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
I have those dates of the auction. They list their past auctions. There was one May 5th of this year, June 5th of this year, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd of this year.
June
all
what?
most recent. June 5th. And I actually have a list of every car that was included in that June 5th auction. So if you give me the make and model, I could see if it was included in that auction on June 5th.
You went in June for the auction or in July?
Yeah, June 5th.
He said a 2007 Yukon, right?
No, Suburban.
2007 Suburban.
There was actually two different trucks that...
Well, that's the one he said he bought.
The only car from 2007 at the June 5th auction was a 2007 Nissan Murano.
Nissan Murano. Wasn't a Nissan Murano. That was the only one that was sold in June 2007.
It was sold in 2007, but I bought a 07 Tahoe Suburban.
I understand that. But you say you bought it in June, and they list on the website everything that they sold in the June auction. Am I understanding that right, Sarah?
Yes.
They list all the cars that they sold in the June auction. And the only car that they sold that was a 2007 was a Murano. He says, and I will be leaving in about an hour or two after I get the Venmo. Would you please just put where you start to ask for your money back because you didn't get the truck? That's what I want to see. I want my money back because you didn't bring me the truck.
There was no Chevy Tahoe 2007 at the July 2nd auction.
Either.
And a lot of the vehicles, a select few, are above $1,500, and that's for newer models. Everything else is under $950.
Thank you. There was no such car either in June or July.
No.
Okay. That's so interesting that they have that information on a website. Ms. Johnson, you can't just give me your phone and expect me to go through pages. All I want, you said you had something indicating that you told him you wanted your money back because you didn't get a truck. So far, there's no evidence that he bought you a truck from the place that he said he bought you a truck.
Yep, here's the part where I'm asking for the money back. He doesn't have proof that he even bought the truck.
No, there is no proof that he bought the truck.
He never bought the truck. Okay, so starting from here, this is me asking if he wanted to just cash at me back my money because he never showed up.
Read it to me.
Oh, okay. It says, do you want to just cash at me back the whole $2,700 because all this waiting isn't necessary. It's just a few taps to cash at me back my money. We can say forget the whole thing because now this isn't sitting well with me. This was supposed to be easy. I don't have my truck or my money. Like, how does that work? And then I offered to just go down there and get it myself. And then he said that there was no place. I said, okay, but how do I get it home with no place? So this whole time he was kind of dragging me on. And then this is the picture of another truck that he sent me.
That's a picture of him.
Yeah, he's posing in front of the truck, the second truck he supposedly had bought for me.
At the auction, yeah. He just told me he bought the second truck at an auction. There's no indication that that auction house where he said he bought it sold a truck that he said that he bought, either in June or July. Got that right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have to waste any more time. You have no paperwork, Mr. McIntosh, that you bought this truck. You have no proof at all that you brought this phantom truck to her house. Why would she be asking for her money back?
Because I bought her a truck and I dropped it off in front of her house, left her the paperwork saying what's wrong with the truck in the truck. She says that she didn't want it, so I said my finder's fee was only like $400, and that's $200 for just a bus ticket to get there. She can sell the truck and get her money back. That's what I told her.
$2,700, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Chris.
I hope this don't affect the relationship with my nieces and nephew.
I'm not really here to bad talk anybody. I just wanted, my money back.
I left it there with the papers and the receipts.
Right is right, wrong is wrong.
She said she didn't want it. I told her she can sell it back, get her money back.
I feel like he kind of screwed it up in a way.
I just want to be a good uncle all the time.
Sarah.
I love when a website is so meticulous and gives us all the evidence that we need. This website had a very well planned out photos.
Towing company.
Towing and auctioneer house had every single auction, every car that was sold, photos, the username of the person who purchased it, and the price of the vehicle.
I can't imagine a company like that doing that voluntarily. And it has to be by law to be licensed in order to avoid stolen cars being auctioned off. Has to be very smart.
Yeah, good way to track the evidence.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to Judy.
Hey yo guys, so here I am with another wrestling news. WWE releases 4 more superstars, continuing roster to purge. Well, let's see who's out now. On Friday, news spread of 7 WWE superstars being separated from the company, and on Saturday 4 more were added to the list. According to the multiple outlets, including Wrestling Inc., Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Isla Dawn, and Giovanni Vinci are also being released. 31-year-old Isla Dawn confirmed her release on Instagram story with a caption that said, "Here for a good time, not for a long time. See you in 90. Dawn was making a reference to the 90-day non-compete she'll have to respect before appearing on a TV for another organization. It wouldn't be a shock to see her land with TNA, which WWE entered into an agreement with in January. Dawn's release break up the unholy union tag team with Alba Fire. The 2 women were former WWE Women's Tag Team Champion. Unless Fire is a part of another layer of sweeps, she'll need to find a way to make an impact as a single wrestler. She's done it before, but she'll need an opportunity. In addition to being a WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, Dawn and Fire were also NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. Giovanni Vinci's exit is not a surprise. He suffered an injury in 2024 and was booted from the Imperium. Vinci came back with a repackaged persona, but it turned out to be a joke, and he was squashed into televised matches. 34-year-old Vinci is an uber-athletic performer who has proven capable of working excellent matches. Can he ever establish a character that matches his in-ring ability? Maybe, but he's the type of performer who seemed like a candidate for a manager or a mouthpiece. Vinci leaves WWE as a former 2-time NXT Tag Team Champion with Ludwig Kaiser, then known as Marcel Barthel, in Imperium. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in this run with WWE. Vinci had not acknowledged the news of the roster move as late Saturday, February 8, 2025. Gallows and Anderson are seemingly forever going to be a package deal. For better or worse, the 2 veterans had not being featured on WWE TV in anything significant for a while. Their days of being a part of the OC with AJ Styles and Mission were seemingly over. Mission has found herself as a single performer, and Styles has returned at the Royal Rumble without Gallows and Anderson being a part of New Flow. 45-year-old Anderson and 41-year-old Gallows are the oldest of this crop of release. Gallows and Anderson have won tag team titles all over the world, including 2 stints as WWE Tag Team Champions.